Disruption, God is a God of mercy, grace, and disruption. My biggest disruption happened the year of, I believe it was 2016. I have a background in IT, corporate America. My big dream was to climb the corporate ladder, and I did. But God has a way of turning sometimes your abundant, fruitful soil into dirt when he wants you to move. Something that used to thrive, something that was working, something that was easy for you, all of a sudden, it's not working anymore. And it is his way to get your attention, because as long as it's driving smoothly, you will not think that there's something better, right? When our car needs service, it drives a little differently. There's an awareness that he has to trigger in order to get us to say, listen, I know this is great, but there's something greater. And we do, and this is what happened to me in 2016, we're comfortable when things are working. I had a high six-figure career. I knew my job like the back of my hand. I was the boss. I had a title. But God wanted me to move, and I said, move where? I worked all these years. I got the degree. I did what I was supposed to do. I'm living the American dream. I graduated high school at 16, college by 20. I bought my first house by 21, and a month later, I bought an Audi. God, I'm good. I'm not understanding why we're starting over. And he said, okay. And see, the thing about worshiping your intellect and being addicted to success, it can have you thinking that you're bigger than what you really are. Because you may feel like no matter where I am, as long as I have book smarts, I'm all right. Well, that is a lie. Because God will cause you to go through something that stress and overwhelm, you can't even figure out what 2 + 2 is. And so he had to cast down my worship of my intellect and my addiction to success that I didn't even know I had. And what that looked like at the time was all of a sudden, I just wasn't the best at work. I was used to being promoted over and over again. I was used to I love saying, I'm the only black, the only woman, and the youngest up in this joint. I got this. All those white men over there, they report to me. Well, one day, I was going through divorce, and as you may know, when you go through traumas and stresses, they can mess with your ability to just focus and think. And I was living in this new house, in this new rental property, and all of a sudden, I was thrust into single mom mode, and I just wasn't on top of my game, and I had this huge meeting. I got this huge promotion. I had to do this big presentation in front of everyone. I was living, we live in Dallas. I was way in South Dallas. My job was in Frisco, near Terry's house. Got all the way to work. I was going to show out, y'all. I was like, oh, yes, this is my moment. They're going to see this black girl magic. Got to work. My laptop wasn't in my trunk. Now, this wasn't just a little old meeting. This was top dogs meeting. So now I'm embarrassed. I've never been embarrassed before. Terry doesn't fail. Terry was a straight A student. Terry is the white sheep of the family. Terry doesn't do things like this. Had to drive back home. I'm exhausted. I'm frustrated. So now I've been driving 3 hours at this point. I could have gone to Houston. I get home about 25 minutes before the meeting. I sit down, and I say, okay, I'm just going to give it virtually. I'm just going to close my eyes for a second. Y'all, I woke up about an hour and a half later. An hour and a half later. And when I tell you the weight of frustration, disappointment, embarrassment, humiliation came down on me like a flood, all I could do was scream. I jumped up, I ran through the house, I ran until I couldn't run anymore, and I landed in my closet, and I just started crying. And I said, who is this? What is this, God? I don't know what I'm going through. And I called my mom, because the first thing you do when you're in trouble is I call my mom. I said, Mama, come over, I missed my meeting. I didn't call my job, I called my mama. And she came over, and she sat on the steps. And when my mom is about to speak wisdom, she sits like Mary J. Blige, gangster. And she looked at me, and I was sitting there talking nonsense. I said, call her. Tell him I got in an accident. Tell him my husband beat me. Tell him something, Mom. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I just can't tell him I fell asleep. Something traumatic happened. And she spoke her words of wisdom, and she said, baby girl, you know what this is. I've been telling you, God is trying to move you. And in that moment, I called, I did the right thing. I called my boss, and I said I need about a week or two off. And during that week, I rested. I gave space, capacity, and room for God to tell me what to do. I surrendered. God will call you to do the easy thing, even though it seems like the hard thing. And when he moved me into the easy thing, I said, okay, God, he said, it's time for you. I had been running my tax firm as a side hustle for about 10 years at that point. My job didn't know. I would drive to their high rise, and 2 exits down, my office was on the 25th floor in another building. They never knew for 10 years. And God said, it's time to take your firm full time. And I said, well, like Terry said, well, God, where's the money gonna come from? Like, I'm good, but I'm used to these checks good. So where's it gonna come from? And 2 weeks later, I got laid off. I never took vacation. It was 25 people got laid off, and I got close to $30,000 in a severance package. He said, this is your seed money. And it was that moment that the real person was born. Who I was, I had stripped myself down in the way that we as black women do in corporate America. I grew up in corporate America at 19 years old. I never knew that I didn't know myself because I was groomed and shaped to be what corporate America taught me to be. And so to look at who I was then and who I was now and who I am now, that moment of disruption, because had it not happened that way, I would have just gone and got another job. So my message is that disruption always precedes elevation. Lean into it. It may be coarse, it may be hard, but us natural goers, when you get that comb down to the edge, your twist out is going to be fire.